All right, welcome back. So it seems like Errol Spence Jr. is contemplating a move up in weight from 147 up to what weight class he does not say. He also said that he could have retired after the car accident and he doesn't plan to be around forever. So it's pretty important that we start thinking about if and when Undisputed can take place between Errol Spence, Manny Pacquiao, Terrence Crawford, and the rest of the welterweight division. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back, welcome back. So we knew that this would not last forever. Errol Spence Jr. is the WBC and the IBF welterweight champion, and he has been on what he is referred to as, in what he referred to as strap season for the last couple years, which was a road for him to get to be the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. But as we know, Errol Spence, like many other welterweights that fight in that division, are really bigger guys that have to really train very, very hard and go, all through, extra stuff in order to get themselves down to the weight that they fight at. And eventually, as you age, as you tire, as you accomplish everything that you want to accomplish in the weight division, or as you just tired of, stressing your body and trying to make that weight, fighters wind up moving up in weight. Manny Pacquiao's moved up a lot of weights. Floyd moved up a lot of weight. Right, Canelo's moved up a lot of weight. So people have been talking about for a while, when will Errol Spence Jr. move up in weight? And he let out a Twitter this morning or late last night, whatever you want to call it, saying that he believes he had 2 or 3 more fights left at 147 tops. And then he backed that up with another tweet that said that he really could have, that he was straight. He could have retired after the accident, but he wanted to come back and prove people wrong. But, he ain't here forever, right? He's not here to fight till he's 50, 60 years old. He's going to try to get the money and try to get the money soon. At least that's the way that I read it, and also the way that I read the circumstance in, just from the perspective of being a reasonable person, right? But what does that mean, though? Because that means time is ticking if he is going to be able to accomplish what he said that he wanted to accomplish, which is to be the undisputed champion of the world. And that is at least 2 fights to get that done. One with Manny Pacquiao and one with Terrence Crawford. And seeing as Terrence Crawford, it doesn't look like that fight is going to happen next. And I think Terrence Crawford has 2 more fights on it. And Manny Pacquiao also let out a statement about what his plans are. Manny Pacquiao said that he could see himself fighting 2 times in 2021. One, not before the first quarter because he's a senator and he's in session, right? And most likely not without a crowd, which means that, he's probably going to try to fight in the United States sometime after May, after the release of, the vaccine, and when they start opening stuff up more. You can expect Manny Pacquiao to be fighting somebody in Texas. Now, I believe the fight for Manny Pacquiao in Texas is going to be Mikey Garcia. That is the guy that I think is the leading candidate for Manny Pacquiao, and that's for a couple reasons. If Manny Pacquiao does not fight before, just say, what is the first quarter? So that's every 3 months, January, February, March. So say he fights like April, or May. If April or May or June, that time frame, Errol Spence Jr. would have just come off of a fight. Terrence Crawford would have come off of a fight a month before Errol Spence Jr. came off of his fight, which means Manny Pacquiao, after not having been in the ring since he fought with Keith Thurman, would have taken all that time off, and he's going to jump right back in with Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, because that's what would need to happen in order for Errol or anybody else to make the undisputed in the next 2 or 3 fights. Manny would have to jump right in with Terrence. That's 1 fight. Manny Pacquiao jump in there with Errol. Jumping with Terrence, that's 1 fight. The winner of that jumps in with Errol. That's your unification. But more than likely that's not going to happen. With Manny Pacquiao, I expect Manny Pacquiao to fight Mikey Garcia. And then maybe if he does take his second fight, if he gets past Mikey Garcia, because Mikey Garcia is not guaranteed. then Manny Pacquiao is going to get past him. Mikey Garcia is an excellent fighter, dude. And Juan Manuel Marquez gave Manny Pacquiao all the problems in the world. Now, I don't necessarily think that Mikey Garcia is quite the level of fighter as Juan Manuel Marquez. He may be, but I guess maybe I need to look at it a little more carefully. But he's definitely an upper echelon fighter at 135. At 135, at 140, he's roughly the same size as Manny Pacquiao. He's younger. He's very well schooled. He'll have an excellent game plan for that fight. He's got a great counter right hand. So, Mikey Garcia might get past Manny Pacquiao. But if he doesn't, then Manny Pacquiao would have to fight Bud, and then he would have to go into the Errol Spence Jr. fight. Or Errol would have to fight Bud in his next fight and then go straight to Manny Pacquiao to get an undisputed in the next two fights. If it was the next three, then Errol could probably take, I think one of the fights that are out there is the WBC mandatory, and the WBC is going to want a cut of this cut of these fights, right? So, they're going to get a cut regardless because Floyd is the WBC champion. But don't be surprised if they throw in another mandatory, like they make Keith Thurman the mandatory, or they do they make Sean Porter the mandatory right away so that they can get back into that cash when Errol Spence Jr. When he fights again. But this whole thing is just kind of, because it's anticlimactic, because the closer that I look at this, and I've said this on several videos, it seems to me that the most logical path for Errol Spence Jr. Going forward to satisfy his own personal goals does not include, unless other than the undisputed, the people around him, the managers, the networks and all that, I really believe that they're going to try to push Errol Spence Jr. towards the mega fight with Canelo Alvarez. I think you might see a Manny Pacquiao fight first. So, what I would suspect is something like this if Errol Spence Jr. is able to pull it off. One would be next fight like a rematch with Sean Porter, or because that would be a pay-per-view level fight because Manny Pacquiao is not available, and Errol's not moving up to 160 yet for the Canelo fight. But I think that more than likely this would be the path for Errol. You would have like a Sean Porter rematch or somebody else, maybe Sergey Lipinets, somebody that he can demolish, right? And that could also satisfy a mandatory. And I do believe the IBF mandatory should be coming up. I think that the WBC mandatory, now I think about it, that might have actually been Danny Garcia, but I could see the IBF, the defense of the IBF mandatory with like Sergey Lipinets or somebody like that, or Abu Karev. I think Abu Karev just got released from ESPN, so he would be, food for Errol Spence Jr. to run through and look spectacular. Then the Manny Pacquiao fight. Then he would move up in weight, probably to 140, 54 or to 160. And I think then from there they'll start working on the fight with Canelo Alvarez, because I don't think Canelo Alvarez does not have another option that is as big an option as Errol Spence, and Errol Spence doesn't have an option outside of Manny Pacquiao. Above 154 pounds, that is the type of option that Canelo Alvarez is. And so I just see that stuff working itself out up at 160 and undisputed. It just seems like that's a very, very tough thing to have. And I'm not really sure that undisputed is really something that the powers that be in boxing really want. You see how undisputed is falling apart again in the heavyweight division. You have Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, a leave to the side to fight the fact that Tyson Fury's cheating behind owes Deontay Wilder fight. They broke up that undisputed fight by the WBO for it's trying to say that Alexander Usyk, is a mandatory and has to fight, and Anthony Joshua has to fight him. So now you have people talking about Anthony Joshua dropping the WBO to give the belt to Alexander Usyk, which again stands in the way of undisputed. So I just, the way boxing is going and the way that undisputed is treated by these sanctioning bodies, I think it's a priority for Errol Spence. I don't know if it's a priority for boxing, and I think that's how we're going to see it play out. But that's my take on the situation. You let me know yours, and with that, I'm out. Peace.